Hi, welcome to a new edition of Things I've Learned and Kind of Retained. And my crazy hair. Um, that's cool. Sorry, anyway, speaking of me looking at myself, so today's edition is self-reliance. And so I have learned that in the past, I would look outwardly for help. I would look outwardly for what to do. I would look outwardly for everything, right? Like I was searching, do you like answer this question for me? Like solve my life problem. And I have slowly realized that I am supposed to rely on myself and trust myself. And I am powerful, and I I know what to do if I just allow myself um to take control, right? To If I just allow myself to step into my power, I'm a powerful person. But it's not just me, it's everyone. But a lot of times we don't know it, and we think that someone else has authority, or someone else is smarter than us, or someone else is better than us. And I've learned that we're all equal. We all have equal souls. We all have equal opportunities. When we come into this world, we're all equal. But we're all equal. Nobody is better than anyone else. No one is worse than anyone else. And then we are raised by our caregivers, and our caregivers project onto us beliefs and values that we don't get to choose. So we grow up just learning those things that get projected onto us and surviving. And then we might not agree with them, or our caregivers might not allow us to be or feel the way that we are. So say if you're a sensitive person and you're crying, but you're a boy, and your parents are like, don't cry, that boys don't cry, then you have just been taught it's not okay to cry in this family if you're a boy. No matter if you were crying, right? So now your caregivers have projected onto you, no crying. Never ever should you cry. So, and we don't realize that we're doing it, right? The caregivers. I was a caregiver. I am a caregiver. I don't realize that. I'm coming to terms with it now too. But so all of these things that our caregivers have projected onto us, we didn't get to choose it, and so we start to think that we shouldn't be ourselves. We start to close off little pieces of ourselves and pack them away and go, don't do that, don't look at that. And then later on, we have these different things. Well, those things that got shoved down become what they call the shadow self, the basement. There's a book called Outwitting the Devil, and he talks about a lot of the aspects of what it's not. He refers to it as the devil, but that's just the label that he's putting on all of these situations and things that happen to us that make us feel like we shouldn't try, and we shouldn't want what we want. We should just conform and go with the flow and survive, and just whatever has been happening for hundreds of years, just keep doing that, whether you're happy or not, whether you're fulfilled or not. And then there's this other part of us that I have heard of it referred to as our higher self, right? So there's a higher self that it wants the best for us, and it wants us to pursue the thing that fulfills us. I don't want to say makes us happy, because happiness isn't like a thing that you can always hold on to. I feel like it's hard to be happy all the time, but it is easier to look at it as being fulfilled. So our higher self wants us to be fulfilled, and then our shadow self is all of the stuff that we shoved down, that we didn't know that we were shoving down there because our caregivers made us feel like it was not okay to express those emotions. And so then we start to grow up and we start to become self-realized, like, oh, it's okay. Those things that are inside of me, I was hiding them and not accepting them, and I didn't want to look at them, and I never wanted to ever see them again, right? Like, I don't like them, don't acknowledge them, but the more that you ignore them, the bigger they become, and they can actually cause you to react. If you're not paying attention to them, you can sometimes be triggered in a way, like, because they're wounds, and so somebody can trigger your wound and it will cause you to react in a way that's bigger than the situation, and then you won't be able to control your reaction. And then a lot of times, a good way to know if your shadow was triggered is you'll burst out in some kind of emotion and then afterwards wonder where that came from. I used to do this all the time in my 20s, and not know, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, that's not me. Why, I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from. So that is a good example of my shadow self was being triggered, and I had a lot of things that I wasn't looking at and I was shoving deep down, and I wasn't communicating my boundaries and my needs and desires because I thought that they were not worthy. I didn't have confidence in my needs and desires, and I didn't know how to communicate them, or that I should communicate them. So I would just let it build up and build up and build up inside of me, and then I would explode like a volcano. So self-love and self-acceptance have a lot to do with accepting your whole self. And I didn't realize that until I started getting into the shadow self. I would hear in a movie, like, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. And I would be like, what the fuck? I love myself. Like, what do you mean? But I loved myself conditionally. I didn't love the parts of myself that I didn't like. I didn't like my shadow, the things I was ignoring, things that I've done that I can't change, that I am ashamed of. I didn't love those things. And so when I started realizing, oh no, I love myself wholly and unconditionally, and I love those things about me that I thought that I didn't even want to look at, and the things I didn't accept, I accept those. They are part of me. I can't change what happened, right? I can't change my history. And so once I realized, oh, I have to love everything about me, then it made so much sense to me why they say that in the movies. You can't love someone else unless you love yourself, because it's the unconditional part, right? If I'm loving myself, but only pieces of myself, and I don't accept my whole self, how can I accept somebody else and all of their pieces? Because we all have the shadow. So if I'm judging my own shadow, then I'm definitely going to judge somebody else's shadow. So self-reliance comes in when you accept yourself the way that you are, and then you realize that none of us have the fucking answers. None of us has the answers. We're all just fucking trying to do our best in this world and survive. So I can learn what I want to learn, that interests me, and I can absorb what I want to absorb. And if I feel like if I feel crappy, or if I feel weak, or if I feel like I need to be in a different state or picked up or, like raised higher, then I need to look at myself for that. I can't look outwardly to anyone else. I can't be okay with someone else doing that for me, or I will always rely on it. I need to rely on myself to fix whatever is the problem. And I mean fix, like, if I'm in a state that I don't want to be in, sometimes realizing that you have to be in that state, and the fact that you don't want to be in it doesn't change that you're in it, right? Like, I will not want to, I want to go away from a lot of things. I don't want to feel them. I don't want to be uncomfortable. So I'm like, oh, I'm realizing I need to be uncomfortable. It's going to happen sometimes that I will be uncomfortable. And so I have to lean into it. And I need to trust myself enough that I can lean into that. So that's why doing the work and realizing your shadow and accepting your whole self and loving your whole self is important for facing the hard things, because there won't always be someone else there with you to face them. And it also helps you know when to ask for help, because I was not really good at asking for help before. And now I realize, okay, I rely on myself as much as I can, but then when I cannot, I need to ask for help, and I need to seek help. It's a work in progress, and it takes practice, and I am not perfect by any means, and I might never be, but the point is not perfection, right? It's just experiencing what we experience, and we can't know all the answers because that would be kind of boring. So it's about the journey, not the destination. It just is so, it just gets like more of a mantra for me. And no matter how much I'm like, oh yeah, sometimes I forget it's about the journey, not the destination. Like, it's not about being a millionaire. It's about what, if I had a lot of money, who it would help in my life. And it's not about the money. It's about the people around me being successful, which is, I want that. I don't need a bunch of money for that. I want people around me to be successful, people that I love. And however I need to achieve that if all my people are successful, that is my wealth. If I don't have a bunch of money, but I have a bunch of successful people around me that I love and I helped them get successful, that is the key. So that was like a little tangent that I went on. Sorry. Self-reliance, things I learned and kind of retained.